Welcome back to the third week of my 30-day Houdini challenge. All throughout this month I will be using a random word generator to select a theme for a new Houdini piece constructed completely from scratch. Working daily, I've been exploring new and interesting ways of expanding my skill set. 3 weeks down, 1 more to go. This batch covers days 16 to 22. Things are starting to get hectic. Coming up with ideas, staying on top of my release schedule, and not getting bogged down in trying to get everything done all at once has been a major struggle. More often than not, I've had to scale back the things I wanted to do because one thing or another wasn't working quite how I wanted them to. I didn't have time to figure out a solution, so I'm leaving them until I have more time to devote my full attention to it. That said, I'm still happy with my progress and glad that I set myself this challenge. So let's get on to breaking down what I've been up to this week. Day 16. Projection. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Time to make a hologram. This one involved working with a lot of different attribute VOPs. It was certainly different from how I usually approach things, and it showed me entirely new ways of creating a scene that I'd never encountered before. Luckily, the example project I was working off of was pretty detailed and easy to follow. A good chunk of it was just getting the point scatter and various noise modifiers to look right. Each layered effect adds minor details to the whole, and there are parts of it so subtle that it's hard to tell if they even made a difference at all. This was a completely novel experience that showed me just how powerful working with attribute VOPs can be. There's plenty more I'd like to do with this one, such as adding it to a scene and creating a projection field for it to come out of it at some point in the future. I look forward to seeing what I can do with this. Day 17. Identification. Everything in its place, and a place for everything. This one turned out to be more difficult to create than expected. I wanted to come up with a way of procedurally sorting items, but the only people I found even trying to do such a thing were one guy who made awesome self-sorting ball drops, and another guy who buried everything on his Patreon. Nobody had done a proper tutorial, so I had to figure things out for myself. This one I started by creating a pop net to deliver 1 or 2 randomly selected items with classes assigned in a wrangle. Working with a DOP network, I used a multi-solver to add a SOP solver alongside the bullet sim. Inside the solver, I added a group from bounding box to select items from a specific point in the world, then using a geometry wrangle, I had it add velocity depending on which class that item belonged to. There are no doubt better ways of doing this, but it's a start. It's awfully crude right now, but given time I should be able to make something of this. Day 18. Girlfriend. When you wish upon a star. This one, my vision was so clear, and yet I wasn't quite able to make it a reality. What I wanted to do was have a statue engulfed in golden glowing flame slowly transform into a real girl while hovering midair. I was able to get the pyro spread to work by driving the temperatures out from a singular hotspot while quickly burning away everything else. From there I made a pyro bake look with appropriate settings to look nice. However, when it came time to do the vellum sim, I found it didn't play nicely with my current animation setup. I was able to establish a static version that somewhat works, but I'll need to rethink my approach if I want to have both. It's a little vexing to be so close and yet so far. I may have to rebuild this to avoid having too much motion while trying to simulate, or figure out other ways of achieving my goals. This is definitely high on my list of the pieces I want to come back to. Day 19. Celebration. It's my party and I could cry if I want to. My initial plan was to do up a scene with a whole bunch of balloons, but I spent too much time getting just the one to work, so Craig's celebration is a little sparse. I made the balloon geo by distorting a sphere into a lattice edit, then it was just a matter of a vellum configure balloon and vellum hair to set up the string. Getting the settings right was half the trouble, the other half was pinning it to the animation. It sort of worked with one, but went haywire when I tried for 2. I don't really have time to sort it all out right now, so I'll have to give you a proper party next time, Craig. Day 20. Concentrate. It's an excellent source of vitamin C. This one I wanted to go for a more commercial feel. I started with bringing in an orange to use, then remeshing it with a vellum cloth surface and vellum fluid interior. The idea was to have the oranges hit the table and burst into puddles of juice. This was my first time trying out doing liquids with something other than flip. Vellum fluid feels a bit more intuitive for smaller scale items, but I'm sure there are various advantages to each depending on the needs of the scene. I was going to try and fill the jug using my vellum fruit, but in the end, I decided to make use of both methods. Vellum for the collisions, and flip for the juice pour. I think it turned out alright, but I will need to figure out how to do the fluid surfacing in a way that won't have it jittering around like it does. I'm going to have to practice up and see what I can make of this in the rebuilds. Day 21. Experience. They say it builds character. Life comes at you pretty hard sometimes, especially when it's barraging with a rain of vellum soft bodies coming down on your head. This one was pretty simple to make. First I set up the character animations using crowd sims, then I created a font node to use as an object. Poly-extruding and beveling the surface, I remeshed it into balloon shapes and added vellum. The hardest part of this was constraining the letters to stay together as they fall. I was planning on having them break apart on impact, but it just didn't feel right. So instead I made it so they'd all get caught around him before tumbling off. There are some things I will need to work on later, but for now I'm happy with how it looks. Day 22. Feeling. Love is in the air everywhere I look around. Cupid is a merciless marksman. I started off by making a heart using Vex to graph the correct line elements, before extruding and beveling it to make the right shape, and attaching it to an arrow model I brought in elsewhere. With my ordnance established, I moved over to a pop network to plan my attacks. Isolating a group of points on the girl, I used pop attract and pop collision detection to make particles fire towards my ninja with an ever-increasing birth rate. Taking the results of that simulation, I removed any points that were hitting outside of the target and interpolated the results. All that remained was an offset copy to points to plant the arrows in his sides. I will need to come back and fix up the arrows so that they bend underneath him and try and add a bit more control over the final look, but I think I hit my mark. And that's it for week 3 of my 30-day Houdini challenge. I'm getting closer to the end, only one more week to go until I'm done. It's been a highly enlightening road so far. I've gotten to try out so many different things and really test my creativity with only a single random word each day. Every piece has helped me sharpen my skills just that little bit more. So tune in next week when I bring my 30 days to an end. See you all next time.